I'm Jane.
And we're SpielMill.
And this is our next episode of Shelf of Shameful Opportunity. All right, so this is where we talk about the games we got to the table for the first time over the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
And this time it's how many games?
7.
7 games.
Woohoo.
This is a little bit of a spoiler, but we do have a little bit of something for you if you're interested. There's a couple games that they're not bad games, but they didn't work for us. And so we thought we'd share them with you. If you want a copy of these games from us, let us know. They're obviously lightly used.
Very lightly.
The first one is Horreos. This is from Button Shy. It's a good game. It's a solid little game. We'll talk about it. But it didn't work for us, so we're not going to keep it. So if you don't want it, we'll give it away. But if you want it, or Tiny Epic Pirates, or if you want either of those games, let us know in the comments below. We'll just randomize from whoever comments saying they wanted it, and we'll reach out and send it to you.
Yeah.
On us. So that's just something we thought we'd do. So I don't know. Half the time we don't know what to do with our old games. So we're not good about selling them. So this is a good solution.
It is. It is. All right. So with that, let's jump in.
All right. Our first game is a small one.
Tiny.
No, it's not. It's Impression. This is a game about the printing press from Attila Soji and A Games. And this is a good game.
Delightful.
Oh my God. It is so much though.
Yeah, it's very heavy. I forget what the weight is. I don't know.
It's over 4.
Yeah. It was chunky, but I don't know. I didn't think it was super difficult. I really liked it. It's a lot, but I thought it was
very
manageable.
brain burnery. It was very brain burner.
Yeah.
And there's a lot going on. So and the I don't know, it's like some of the mechanisms definitely fit the theme really well, but it also feels abstract at times. And I think that's just because it is such a heavy Euro-ish game. And you know, it's like Euro games, sometimes the mechanisms feel detached from the theme.
Yeah, I thought it was actually very cool and somewhat thematic though, because you do have this really like a 3D piece where you put on the order that you're making that'll tell you need how much paper, how much ink, whatever, and you push it through the assembly line, right? And you're moving it as you expend your resources to create this printed work, which I thought was really cool and certainly to me felt really thematic as you were going through the phases of producing something.
Yeah, no, and it's neat how it all works.
Yeah.
There's several areas. There's kind of multiple. We like these kind of games where there's multiple sort of little things going on all over the place. You're traveling from town to town as a salesman. You're getting bonuses. That's one thing about this game that was great. It had bonuses everywhere. Bonuses everywhere. So you're traveling around town. You're doing the printing press. You're sending things through production. You're going over here and going to different shops and doing different actions in the shops. That's like the big mechanism in the game. You can go over and there's like there's goals and objectives. There's a whole thing with trading that you can do. I don't know. There's factories you can build. There's
you build your own engine. You build
it's got a Wingspan-esque engine building thing going on. That's really neat. It's just so much that's really going on, and we love that.
Yeah,
thrive on it.
2 of the things I really liked about it, maybe 3. First, the action selection mechanism is you've got 2 workers and you're moving them in like a town from shop to shop, right? And you can choose a top or a bottom action. The top is generally better, but once you choose the top action, that worker is not going to be able to travel the next turn. You're going to have to reset your workers in order to get them all standing up and where they can move to another shop. But you get stuff when you reset them, and you can be really strategic so that you can send a worker somewhere, send them to the top, and then reset after. And so he's also sliding down, and then you're getting those resources as well. And I just thought that was a super clever action selection mechanism. I really enjoyed that puzzle, and it never felt overly punishing. Sometimes it was tight, but it was not punishing.
It's certainly tricky, and I saw some commenters in BGG were like, oh, this is overly complicated, but I thought it was clever.
I did too.
And it was cool, and I really liked it. Another thing you mentioned it, I like the production line.
Yes, that was the second one I was going to mention that I really liked.
The production line, it's like you add, it's like you get a job from somebody. I want to print all these leaflets. And then you got to send it through the production line. Maybe this production line requires more paper, so you got to spend more paper to send it through the 4 steps of production. Maybe it requires more lead, and you got to spend more lead. You know, depending on what the job is, you got to spend more of certain different resources. And then there's a little expansion where if you get to step 4, you can do a little gold seal on the printing, which was a little extra points. It costs extra resources, but it gave you extra points.
Yeah,
and that was neat too.
And then below that, it wasn't the production, it was actually what's below it that I was going to mention, is that what you call the Wingspan-esque like engine, right? Your production engine. So there's multiple different ways you can add pieces to it that trigger it. And then there's multiple different triggers. So adding one type of tile to it triggers everything downstream of that same type. And then there's another one where you're putting in, I guess it's like improvements to your factory. So every time you do another action, like a phase of production, you get a bonus or you get another action or something out of it. So there's multiple different ways those trigger. And I just thought that was an added sort of like fun bonus puzzle to me. Really enjoyed that.
And the bonuses you're constantly getting in this game, like I think I just got a bonus just now. We're not even playing the game.
Yeah, oh, totally. Oh, I got one too.
Woo! So that's how it is a little bit. It's kind of like a roll right that way. It was nothing like a roll right.
But it has some of that same dopamine, like, oh, I got a bonus. Oh, I got a bonus. Oh, I got a bonus.
The 2 negatives I want to bring up. One is there is a fair amount of downtime between turns.
Yes.
So we played it 2-player. I imagine a 3 or 4 player that could get pretty rough.
That could be really rough.
Now obviously you can plan for your next turn, but like with most games, downtime would ideally be a little less. That was the one thing. And the other thing is we didn't like the end game as much. The end game trigger, you could snipe another player where you grab the last piece, the last production piece, and leave them with nothing. So we kind of house ruled it a little bit to make that a little...
As we always do.
Because we don't like the end game in Scythe, for example, and how you can just grab the last star and it's
you're done.
Yeah, and it just happens really quick. This kind of reminded me of that a little bit. So we like to balance those out a little bit and allow everyone to sort of enjoy their game experience.
Yeah, games are supposed to be fun. There's no reason for me to be angry and disappointed at the end of the game, except when I lose. But
yeah, so if you like that kind of end game thing, you're fine. If you don't, you can house rule it like we did. So it's totally manageable.
Yep.
So that's our first game, Impression. It was a big hit with us. If you like a big game like a Lacerda game or something like that, it's really in that vein.
Yeah, we love all his games though. Not a surprise. One of our favorite designers.
All right, the next game we mentioned at the beginning, and it's a little button shy game called Horreos. And now Horreos is a game where you're building a Horreos. And it's really kind of simple. You draft a card, it goes into a line, and then you for a different action on a different turn, you can add it to your Horreos. And you're trying to build collections of columns. There's like little rats that you can get on top, or mice. Or you can get owls, and the rats are mice, negative, or whatever they were, negative points, but the owls counteract that.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. The problem with this game is the action selection system. Now, it's not a problem per se. If you like a player-on-player game that's a little bit aggressive, it could work well for you. And to be honest, the aggression kind of backfired when I did try to use it. But you have
worked for me every time.
You have like 4 actions you could choose from your turn. You decide secretly, and then you reveal, and then depending on what the other player does, that could impact what happens with your action. But here's the thing: if 2 of the actions are like take that actions, like steal from the other player, or take a card from the other player, or what was the other one? Actually, I forget right now. Why am I drawing a blank? But anyway, but they're both aggressive at the other player. However, and this is where it actually backfired, is that if
flip the card. It was flip the card.
One of them was flip the card, and so if you...
So it was like you could change the other person's card so that they get a different action.
But was that an action, or was that just when you played the same action?
No. This was an action. That was like a take that action. But what happened was every time you did that, the card I had out was steal something from you. I was playing the nice side, and you flipped it to the aggressive steal something from you side. So I kept taking your cards, which I was not trying to do. I did not want to do that. And so it really
You told me to play aggressive at the beginning of the game, because normally I don't, but I was like, okay, well, I'll do it because she wants me to. But yeah, whatever. It didn't work out. But I don't like how aggressive the actions are. Out of 2 out of 4, you know, it's like, if it's one action, you can kind of play it minimally. But if it's like 2 out of 4, it's kind of like you're down to 2 actions.
Yeah, I think I really liked the pattern building, like building my Horreos, but because the take that mechanism doesn't work for us, it just kind of, the game fell flat. But I think if you like that, this would be a really fun game. It's
worth a try. So if you want it, remember to comment in the comments below. We'll send you our version to someone randomly chosen.
Yep, absolutely. Okay.
All right, so our third game is another one that didn't hit for us that we mentioned at the beginning, and that is Tiny Epic Pirates.
Yeah, no, we like Scott Alms. Actually, he's kind of one of my favorite designers.
He's from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, he's from Pittsburgh. Some of my favorite games are from him, like Boomerang. And we like some of the Tiny Epic series, but this one just didn't work for us.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was. It was. Do you know?
I have some issues, some reasons it didn't work for me.
Go ahead.
Number one, it has a modular map, but it's just a symmetric map. And so I didn't find the modularity of the map that interesting. I didn't find the map that interesting. I like maps a lot, but I like them asymmetric, like in Belgian Beers Race, as an example, if you've ever played that. That's just an example of that. So that was one thing I just didn't love about it. We're not big at attacking each other, and this game very much seems like it only thrives off of attacking each other, and I suspect it just doesn't work very well at 2. And we play at 2.
Yeah.
So I think it requires, with 3 or 4 players, it could be very chaotic and interesting. But I think at 2, it just wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
Because it requires a certain amount of aggressions. If you need to move up in your legendary status, and to do that, you have to attack either the neutral ships or the other player ships. Now, there are neutral ships, but one thing I know that happened to you was you were very successful against them early in the game. But early in the game, you don't move up your legendary status. You don't get much for them. But then you set it up, and all of a sudden I started having success against them, just with the rolls of the dice and such, and I was getting the legendary status.
Yeah, and I couldn't catch up because once I fell behind, there was no way for me to have enough firepower to actually be successful. And I mean, that might be just the luck of the way we played it, but that's kind of a flaw to me, is that there was that runaway leader that, like, once sort of you tipped it to a certain point and I was behind, I was done. There was nothing I could do to catch up.
I feel like we didn't play it enough to be 100% sure that it had a runaway leader problem, but I suspect it does.
Yeah.
Based on our play, and you know, and a third strike for me, and this is just a personal preference, is I'm not big on pirate games. I'm just not big in the theme.
Yeah.
So I think it in order for a pirate game to succeed with me, it has to be really good.
Yeah. The other thing that there was some real potential there, and for me what was disappointing was not being able to realize that potential. Now again, we didn't play it enough, so maybe I would have figured it out, but like I never was able to move up. Like I just could not get up that scale.
You were struggling with it.
Because again, I missed my chance, and if you miss your chance, you're done. The second was that I liked the pirate expansions, like you could add to your crew and that would help you get more powers. But because there's sort of a modularity with the action selection wheel, because of the way mine was ordered, it just wasn't super efficient. I couldn't quite get any engine going because I'd have to skip all the way around.
I do feel you could have a lot of luck in how your wheel sets up at the beginning of the game.
If you need to do A to get to B to get to C, but mine was set up C, B, A, right? I was having to go all the way around. If you go all the way around, you trigger the whatever, the British naval ship, and they come after you. So I couldn't do that. I had to get myself somewhere that I protected myself, which put me out of, out of reach of the good B and C actions, which I was trying to set up for. Like it didn't work. It was the most frustrating game experience I've had in a long time. And
so curious, like, have any of you played this game, and then what did you think of it? Because maybe we didn't play it enough to get a full sense of it. I don't want to say it's a bad game or anything like that, because I think it probably isn't.
He's a really good designer, so it just... Yeah.
One legit complaint I have for sure, though, is, look, I'm old, and I'm not as dexterous as other people, and I know it's Tiny Epic Pirates, but the ratio of the cubes that you're supposed to put on the boats and the size of the boat space that you're trying to put it in.
You needed tweezers. Tweezers. My God.
I just think some agile person designed that. It wasn't me.
Remember the olds, people. When you're designing a game, please remember the olds. You can't get down in there.
So anyway, that was just kind of a little annoyance, but it's a legitimate complaint, I think, because it's like, you should play test it so that for different people with different physical abilities. If somebody has a physical disability with how, could be shaky hands or anything, that's going to be very hard to work with.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. Yeah. So that's Tiny Epic Pirates.
All right.
Next on our list is a button shy game. And this is it's called Family Dinner. It's sort of an RPG.
It is an RPG.
It is, it's not sort of, it is an RPG. It has 2 players, so we played it 2 player. We sort of tested it. I think it would be better with more. And so it's basically you're telling a story. You're at a dinner with family members, and you kind of decide, who are you, right? And then each turn you have a card that prompts you to add to the story. And then you have to bring a new family member into it, and you're drawing a family tree as you do this. And so you're setting up this whole sort of like family legend. And I thought
it was really fun.
Yeah, it was really fun. We had a lot of fun with it. I felt like we had this whole epic family story when we were done.
Yeah, you definitely build a real story, and it's fun. We might have had one of the queerest families out there.
A very queer family.
But, it was really fun. And I don't know, it's just really, I don't know. It was we had a chance to use our creative selves. Like, it was a good RPG.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So if you like RPGs, one of the nice things about this is it plays really quickly. So this would be a great either like icebreaker if you're settling in for a game of heavy RPGs, or it'd be a nice game to play with friends that don't want to play a heavy RPG, but on a game night. People who are comfortable with that sort of role-playing and storytelling element, this would be really fun.
Yep. So that's our next game. I don't know, is there more to say about that?
No,
not a whole lot to say. It's a solid RPG. I think people should give it a try. Our next game really surprised me. I was not expecting much from this game. And that is The Builder's Antiquity. And this is just a little card game. Comes in a little metal tin. Honestly, based on the tin and everything, and the cover art, I expected nothing.
Yeah.
I expected nothing. It was really good.
It was delightful. I'd play it right now.
It was really good.
I would 100% play it right now.
It was very clever. It had your cards. So you had workers in your cards, and your workers would have there'd be 4 different areas they could work in. And then you'd have buildings you're trying to build, and the buildings would have 4 different areas you can build in. And your buildings would have requirements that you'd have to match with your worker cards, and you'd lay them up against each other, and you would need usually 2 or 3 workers to build a building. But here's the thing. You also had buildings that were machines. So usually the buildings gave you money. But sometimes they were machines, and when they were machines, they might give you a little money, but they give you more worker power.
Well, and the thing is, you have to pay your workers, right? Going back to this maintenance theme, to put your workers out, you had to pay them, and the better ones, of course, cost more coins. So a building, though, would give you some of those same powers without having to pay for it, because it's a machine that you've already built.
Well, it was really interesting, and I thought it would be, I honestly gave it side-eye when I saw this in the game.
I did too when you said this.
And that is that there were prisoners in the game that you could employ to work. Now, not exactly employ.
Prison labor.
It is prison labor. And now, I'm not a big fan of prison labor because usually it means exploitation in reality. Okay? In this game, though, it's kind of interesting. So you you paid a certain amount to get a prisoner up front, and you never had to pay them to go work on a building though once you got them. Then, what was really kind of interesting is that if you don't free your prisoner before the end of the game, you lose points. I liked that aspect.
I like that aspect of it too.
So that was really quite interesting, I thought.
The other thing I liked is that you could educate your workers, and so there were these clear overlays that you could get that had, like, let's say your worker didn't have any metalworking or gold on it, right? You could buy one that had 3 power metalworking and lay it over that worker. Now that worker who was maybe, they didn't call, what was it? Assistant, not intern, wasn't an intern.
No, it was apprentice.
Apprentice, thank you, intern. Your interns, right?
Also known as slaves.
Yeah, they were cheaper, right? Maybe only 2 coins versus the higher powered ones. But now
interns should not be slaves.
For
just
2,
for the record.
Yeah. Right. But now for 2 coins, you could pay that much more powerful worker. So I thought that was really cool. This game, really good.
Yeah.
What a surprise.
Another thing it did was it had tools that could make your workers more powerful. But that was everything. The thing about this game that I think would be really interesting, as a card game, I thought it was neat.
Yeah.
What?
Nothing, go on. I know what you're going to say.
Is that I really would love to see this as part of a bigger game. I think if you took all this card play and then added a board where you're building a town in the middle or something, and then you gained income from the buildings you built. Every time you built a building with the cards, you built a building in the town, and maybe you had like some kind of area control thing or something going in the middle. That could be totally interesting.
It could be. Yeah, it really, I think that it's fine as a card game. I really enjoyed it. But it's a light, card game. But that mechanism, the way you have your workers, you power up your workers build things, could be a really cool mechanism in like a bigger Euro game. Yeah.
I think it would be very interesting. Yeah. And I think it would make a game that I think is good, great, potentially, if done right, obviously. So, but anyway, that's the Builder Antiquity. The Builder's Antiquity?
The Builders.
The Builder's Antiquity.
Yeah. Surprise. Dark horse surprise.
Yeah, that was a surprise. We were just trying to knock it off our list.
Yeah.
Our next one, I'm going to be honest, this was my favorite in the bunch. And this is Redwood. Yes. Redwood is so good. Now, you're playing nature photographers. And you're just
so pretty.
Traveling on the woods, taking pictures of animals and flowers and trees. And that's it. A puma, if you can. In the Puma expansion. But there's a bunch of different... The base game itself, I want to say this, is like the base game itself is really fun. And the rules are really simple. And I think it's almost a gateway game.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's quite a gateway game, but it's pretty close.
It's... The one thing I will say is it's not quite a dexterity game, but it is a spatial... awareness game. And so for some people that might not work. I was actually surprised though at how well I did at it.
Yeah, you did great.
Because normally I'm not so good at that measure, like guessing distances and whatnot. But basically the way it works is you have these I don't even know what you call them. What's the material it's made out of? These arms made out of plastic.
They're just plastic, yeah.
Yeah, that you clip
on.
But
they're like, it's like acetate.
Yeah, you clip it onto your photographer, right? And that tells you how far that photographer and what path that photographer is moving on, right? So you take your second photographer mini then and you set it on the circle where it tells you that's where your photographer is going. You have to pick that in advance. You can't change once you pick it, right? You gotta pick it and use it. Right. Then you have a lens, which is going to capture certain things within its lens. Right. And then you clip that onto the second photographer that you laid down. And whatever's in that lens area is what you get a picture of. And that's how you fulfill your objectives. That is.
Yeah. The big core of this game is that you, at the beginning of your turn, you're trying to look at the board and figure out how far you need to travel, pick the right thing for it, and what kind of lens you'll need to get the picture you want to get. The problem is that what you see and what you get are not usually the same thing. And you find yourself like, oh, this is the picture I wanted. I'm going to go for this picture over here because it just didn't gauge it right. So it's challenging, but it's really fun. And it's tactile. It's 3-dimensional. You got the animals on the board everything. You're building a panorama in front of you that's really just kind of cool. And we'll try to throw up a panorama here so you can get an image of one. But and the expansions, some of them just complicate the game, which is okay. We kind of do like that.
Yeah.
But I think some of them also add, like there's a tree you can add that's 3-dimensional, and there's a bike and a canoe that add different elements to how you can move on the table, on the board.
There's a second set of animals. My one gripe is that you have to play with either animal set A or animal set B. And that's annoying. Now, I agree that there's probably not enough spaces for all the animals if you did...
There's actually a solo variant on BGG that somebody came up with where you use all the animals. So I think we should try that, but with multiplayers.
Yeah, agree. Because I love all the animals.
I'd love to see how that plays.
I want them all.
I mean, there may not be enough holes, so we'll have to check that out. Because there's little hex holes that you have to put your animals in to place them. And there's a limited number of them.
And I will say the game is just a bit fiddly because you're clicking this thing on your photographer and you can't touch any animals with it. And you got to put your photographer down and then not move it. But it's not as fiddly as you would think. They did a really good job. The hexes, or the double layer player board with the hex holes, the animals snap into those so you don't bump them out of the way. It's actually, they did a spectacular job in designing this game so that it really plays very smoothly, because it could have been a nightmare.
Right. It is a little fiddly, but it's still quick. And one thing I really like about it is that I love immersiveness in games. But I found this game immersiveness even though it isn't long. A lot of games require that length to sort of build into the game, that, depth. You know what I mean? And this game every game's under an hour, but you get totally immersed in it. And I really like that. I thought it worked really well.
Yeah, I mean, this is a fantastic game. It really is. It's beautiful. It's such it's different. It's not... I mean, it's maybe not different for some things, but for us, it's very different from the typical Euro games we play. I think most games, unless you play war games where you measure how far you go, it's probably pretty unique.
Yeah, no, I think so too. So that is a game that's going to be pretty high on my top 100, I think. That's Redwood.
Yeah, awesome.
Nice choice. All right.
And our final game is a party game. We just played it with the two of us, so we haven't tried it with the group, but it's League of Lexicon. And it's just kind of Trivial Pursuit, but with words. But I'm a big word nerd, and I really enjoyed that.
Well, I think the questions are good. So I think there's two parts to Trivial Pursuit, right? There's how good are the questions, and the other part is the game mechanics. And the thing that sucks about Trivial Pursuit is the game mechanics.
Yeah.
League of Lexicon, the game mechanics are okay. They're a little better than Trivial Pursuit, but not much.
We played it, and we also switched up and did it cooperatively. It's supposed to be competitive, which might be fine if you have a group, I think, and maybe if you played teams. But I think it was much more fun to sit and talk about and be like, oh, what do you think that word means? Oh, can we think of 10 words that are synonyms for confused? Which I can right now, but in a game, nope. Brain goes blank.
It's really hard. And I do think, though, that any kind of trivia game is maybe a little better in teams or cooperatively, because questions are it's really hard to pick questions that are not harder for some people than others. And it's just the way it is, because people have varying knowledge bases. Yeah. And you might be really good at one aspect of words. I may be really good at another aspect of words. But... like working as a team just works better. Yeah. And it's just more fun, in my opinion. So I think this game really worked that way.
Yeah, I agree. It reminded me a little bit of Balderdash, but sort of took that central theme of Balderdash, which is the right definition and which is the made-up definition, and expanded on it, because there were other things about like word usage and grammar and history.
Yeah, the word history in this game was interesting. There was a lot of questions about the origins of words, or, that were interesting. Yeah. That were historically placed and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. If you like words, and you're a big giant nerd, this is, you might really like this game.
So that's our last game. That is League of the Lexicon. A solid word game, but not great. Yep. I would say. Yeah. We'll play it. But we're our word nerds.
Fun for a group.
So So anyway, remember, before we break up with anything else, is we are giving away Horreos, our copies of Horreos and Tiny Epic Pirates. So comment below if you'd like a copy of either one of those. We'll reach out to send them to you. And then, I don't know, what did you think of, have you played any of the games we mentioned in the video? If you have any feedback on them yourself, that would be very interesting for us. Maybe our take on some of the games is wrong.
Yeah.
Or, you know, because we didn't play a lot of games of the games we didn't like.
Yeah, sometimes you're just like,
yeah, don't want to do that again. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I think that wraps it up.
All right.
Remember,
every day that you game
is a holiday.
All right, bye, everyone.